Speaking of around and finding out, speaking of actions having consequences and cautionary tales, this is an Am I the A-hole call. Am I the a-hole for finding someone else when my wife opened our relationship? Dun dun dun!
What?
Now, this is where I'd love some input from my poly friends. Is it typical in poly relationships? Because I know that there's polyamorous and then there's polygamous. And polyamorous is you are dating and having feelings for more than one person. Polygamy is more, the physical aspect is pretty transactional, but you really have one partner that you are emotionally committed to. And you're tied to that main primary partner, but you are not to commit or reprioritize any of your physical partners. To me, I feel like if I was to join such a lifestyle, which I won't, I'm really happy with my monogamy. I love monogamy. I feel like I wouldn't be able to not emotionally connect with someone. I think that's a really interesting line to draw. And I'm trying not to cast too much judgment because I've had a lot of people in my audience tell me, like, no, Lauren, like, you don't understand. For people in the lifestyle, it's very easy to just switch the emotions off and just use people for those specific services or interactions, I guess. I just have also heard too many horror stories of emotions getting involved. I don't believe that part. I think it's possible to where not every physical interaction has to become emotional. I think that's possible. And I think that it's possible to have a poly relationship that works out where everyone consents. However, I don't think it's possible to consistently sleep with the same person over and over and over again and never develop an emotional bond unless you are a sociopath. And if you're a bunch of sociopaths in a polycule, great. As long as all the consent is there. I don't think that it's realistic to tell your partner, like, yes, you can sleep with people over and over and over again, but you can't have feelings for them. You are asking for someone to deny themselves the entire human condition. That's what we do as humans, is if we're consistently engaging in a very rare activity, let's be honest, there's nothing on this earth quite like that act. It releases all kinds of chemicals and endorphins, and all kinds of things can happen as a result of it. The most specific of those being that you could create a practical carbon copy of that other human. It would be pretty lazy and disingenuous to say it's just like a high five, right? And so to say, like, you do that over and over again with someone, but don't have feelings for them, are we being realistic? Are we? Feel free to start arguing. You can argue with me. All that being said, am I the a-hole for finding someone else when wife opened our relationship? I'm a 29-year-old male. My wife is a 30-year-old female, and we have been together for 7 years, married for 4. Last year, she came up with the idea of an open relationship to try out new things. I said it's not something I'm comfortable with, and I would like to stay monogamous. It felt weird because it came out of nowhere. We were doing good. We're planning to build a family together. After my reply, she insisted a lot. In the end, I decided to give it a try. Always a good sign when you get exhausted and worn down into agreeing to polyamory. Always a good sign. Here are the boundaries she set. 1. You should always prioritize the spouse instead of the other partner. 2. Always use protection. 3. Do not bring the partner to the shared home. And 4. Do not form overly emotional connections. Now, again, I've said my part here. I think that this is majoritively unreasonable. I don't think that having a primary partner and then secondary or tertiary partners is unreasonable. I think that that works out a lot. I think that for a lot of polyamorous people, it's pretty normal for them to have like their main and then, you know, their sides. And I think it's fair to say, I need to be the top priority, you know? I think it might even be fair to say, like, as the main partner, I get veto power, even, right? That to give you that extra element and comfort of being the higher dog or whatever. But what does overly emotional connections mean? Like, where do you draw the line on that? That's where it gets too murky. You guys are playing with so much fire here. Like, you're playing with so much fire. Even the always use protection, like, y'all know protection fails, right? You guys know it's not perfect. Condoms break. Birth control can be displaced. Women can forget to take the pill. Women can lie. Men can lie. Men can pop the condoms. Like, all kinds of things can happen, and you're opening up so many different layers of trust. Let me finish the story. I told her I'm not sure if I can do some of those things. I'm an emotional person. I love the physical part too, but I'm more emotional. She said it's okay. I will be able to do it. She said it's hard for men to form emotional relationships in such cases anyway. When your misinjury ends your marriage, she literally there I can't tell you how many times people open their marriage under the misaligned thought that their partner like either won't be able to get any or like, oh no, they're just too dumb of a man to form multiple emotional connections. He couldn't possibly handle all that. It's tough for men to form emotional connections. So I'll be good. Like, your limited mindset on men got your ass left, dude. But spoiler warning, let's get into the rest of this. She found a partner quickly and easily. I'm sure that was just a coincidence and had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that she was definitely banging a coworker behind your back for months before she even asked you to open the relationship. But that's just my worst case scenario brain thinking, but also very likely. My wife was my first relationship partner, so I wasn't as confident in myself. I did not have great chances when I was in my 20s, but eventually, after clearing out most of my work, I decided to try finding a partner in my spare time. Surprisingly, I was flocked with interest from younger or around my age women. I knew maturing and aging did a great job for me, but not to this extent. I started talking to multiple people, but decided to go ahead with only one of them. When I shared this information with my wife, she seemed surprised, but congratulated me. She said she is shocked by how beautiful this woman is and that I was able to get her. Oh my god. This woman has just been like very subtly jabbing continuously. Like, wow, I am amazed that you can actually pull someone good looking. I wasn't expecting you to get any hits, but good for you, buddy. Oh my god, holy patronizing, Batman. It has been 10 months since finding a partner, but the more I got to know her and spend time with her, we formed an emotional connection together. This woman is aware of my situation and respects my boundaries, but I realized that I lost a lot of emotional and physical connection with my wife over time. I know one of the boundaries was about emotional connections and prioritizing the spouse, but I told her I was not sure if I could comply with some of these. I had a difficult talk with my wife last week about my situation. She immediately offered closing the relationship and going to couples counseling, but to be honest, I'm not interested. She feels no different than a friend for me, and I'm afraid I built resentment for her due to the open relationship situation. I told her that doing that would just extend the misery for me, and that I'd actually like to have a divorce. She flipped out, cried, saying I'm throwing everything away for just a fling. Even our friends are saying that I should try to save the marriage. So, am I the a-hole here? Slipknot YK06 says, she's an emotional tyrant. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell these people. Like, one thing that most of my poly friends seem to have accepted about their lifestyle is whenever I've seen my poly friends date people, they seem to take on this mindset of, well, we're dating each other and we love each other, but we accept that if someone else should come along who's better for them, then they might want to leave. It's a very elevated hyper ego mindset. It's one that I'm not really interested in entertaining. Call that a limited mindset if you'd like. Again, I like my monogamy. It's nice and easy and simple for me. But I feel like if you are going to engage in polyamory, you have to have that mindset, don't you? It's basically like being single with wheels. You you kind of have to just accept that no one really owes you that lifelong commitment because they've already told you that they're polyamorous. They've already told you where they're at. And that's not to say that you can't have certain commitments on a polyamorous relationship. You could absolutely say, like, let's date other people, but let's also agree to this lease, or we're going to date other people, but let's also agree to this pet that we're going to share. You know, you can have both, but I don't think that it's reasonable to try to be polygamous but tell your partner that they can't fall for someone else. I think that's completely unreasonable. And I think that if you're going to take the risk and say, let's open up the relationship, well, if they meet someone else who they find is better for them, do you think that that's on the person who is supposed to be committing to their partner? Do you think that that is wrong of them to discover this other relationship? Look, these are problems that I do not have as a monogamous person. If my husband goes out and finds someone else, then I don't have to take the blame for that because I have been telling him for 10 years not to do that. Now, if I was like, yeah, you can go out and date other people, it would be really dumb of me to come crying on the internet that my husband has now found someone else to date, wouldn't it? I told him to do that. And I agree. I think she had someone in mind when she brought this up. Top comment says, not the a-hole, your wife took a huge risk opening up the marriage. You were honest about her, about your emotional connection personality. She is facing the consequences of her own actions. Yes. That's just crazy to me too, that he tried to tell her, like, I don't know, I tend to develop feelings for people. And she's like, nah, you won't do that. I know best. And yet, that's exactly what happened. Better keep Tripod Johnson to yourself.